What's going on, guys? It's Cimo, and today I'm bringing to you the winners and losers of the December 2018 ban list. Now, every time we get a new ban list, I like to take a day or two, collect my thoughts after the initial hype, and really just analyze which decks came out on top and which decks just got utterly crucified, so we can see an initial direction, at least on the surface, as to where the format might take us. Now, apologies in advance, I still am a little bit sick, but after the next day or two, I should be completely back to normal, but we are back in action. Now, before we get into it, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. And if you really love the content that I produce on my channel, then consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. We had so many new patrons and channel members come in during the time that I was sick, as well as my time in Europe. So a big handful of them today are Zachary, Ryan, Leo, Romano, Anan, and Jordan. Thank you so much for all of your support. And if you guys want help, consider supporting the channel yourself. Hit the join button down below or check out the links in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to go ahead and start off with the winners of the ban list. I think this is a little bit more obvious, and I think the losers are actually rather interesting. So when it comes to the winners, well, everybody's a winner because Firewall Dragon got banned. Now, the reason everyone is a winner in this regard is because this was kind of the crux of the FTK issue. Now, this hasn't completely just gotten rid of the FTK issue as a whole, but I think like 90% of the issues that were essentially centralized around Firewall in regards to the FTK, by taking Firewall out of the equation, it's something we really don't have to worry about too much longer. Now, we're going to talk about FTKs a little bit later on, but just everybody just wins out there because now we can actually play the game to some extent, you know? I mean, I think the biggest thing that everyone was just complaining about was not even getting the opportunity to play. And when there's an FTK in the format, especially when there's an FTK that's so prevalent that it's kind of dictating deck building as a whole, and you really just have to open those hand traps to just ensure you even get a shot to play the game, that doesn't exactly bode well for, you know, a positive outlook on the game itself. And I think a lot of players are finally happy that Firewall is gone. I'm still in shock that Firewall got banned because, frankly, I never thought I was going to see the day that it was going to happen, but it did, and I think a lot of us can take solace in the fact that we're never going to see Firewall again, at least for the foreseeable future. But in addition to that, though, aside from everyone being winners, a lot of the competitive players who are playing the top tier decks, you know, your decks didn't really get touched whatsoever. I mean, Sky Striker didn't take a single hit whatsoever, and Sky Striker is arguably one of, if not the best decks of the upcoming format, just because it's had an amazing track record even during the FTK format, because Sky Striker is that incredible of a deck. You've got decks like Thunder Dragon, which again took 0 hits. I mean, everyone was thinking like Gold Sarcophagus might get hit because it was hit in the OCG. Thunder Dragon Colossus arguably could have been hit on the ban list as well, but again, nothing was touched in that deck whatsoever. You've got a deck like Altergeist, which again, Altergeist probably doesn't need to get hit at all, but Multifaker has been hit in Japan before, and we can sometimes look at Japan to see these trends and kind of look and figure out, will those changes come and impact us here in the TCG? So it's possible, and some people could argue Multifaker is powerful enough to warrant getting hit on the ban list, but again, Altergeist came out clean, and Trickstar, again, Trickstar has been hit in some indirect ways. I mean, on the previous ban list, we saw Terraforming and Scapegoat get hit, which were indirect hits to Trickstar, but again, you know, still doing very well. It got second at YCS London. It managed to take some top cut slots at YCS Pasadena. I mean, the deck's still pretty good, and all of its components are there. Light Stages at 3, Reincarnations at 3. You know, all these things are all still there for all of these decks. So if you're someone who's playing any of these top tier decks, you're pretty much going to be in a very good position moving into this brand new format. That aside, though, there are some other decks that got some support back, or basically got cards back that make them playable again, that a lot of people are really excited about. The first one being Cosmo. Cosmo Dark Destroyer is now at 3. Will Cosmo do anything in the upcoming format? I don't exactly think so. I don't think Cosmo is essentially going to do anything now that there's 3 Dark Destroyer instead of 2. You were seeing Cosmo kind of like doing a little bit at the regional level, and at your local level, you know, anything's really possible. Dark Destroyer is still an incredibly powerful card, though, and if there's anything that's going to allow Cosmo to do well, even in the slightest bit, Dark Destroyer going to 3 is definitely going to be a very key piece to that. And then we also have ABC. Now this really excites me because since Firewall got banned, a Assault Core was allowed to return. And this is a really big deal because, let's be honest, you weren't playing ABC with a lone copy of a Assault Core. I mean, you could have, theoretically, if you're like fucking psychotic, but that's on you at that point. But the thing is, now that it's at 3, it's actually a viable deck. Now, is it going to make ABC a tier 1 contender? Probably not, but the thing you have to realize is prior to these hits to the deck, ABC was actually able to still top YCSs. I mean, there was multiple instances where it might have been only one top, but there was multiple times where ABC was able to make it to day 2, to make it to top cut, and not even just make the top 32 of those YCSs, but sometimes even go the distance and make it into the top 16 and top 8 as well. So the fact that it has this track record that it is still able to push and make it through all the way up into top cut shows it's a deck that is able to compete at a higher level. I mean, you've got other decks running around like Cyber Dragons and all these other things that also still have a shot to make it even though they're underdog decks, and ABC has been one of them, but hitting A to 1 basically made it impossible for ABC to be viable. ABC Dragon Buster is still an insanely good card, and the deck itself is, still pretty good for what it is. Sure, there's only 2 terraforming now, but again, I don't think that's really enough to hit the deck's consistency to make it completely unplayable. This deck just got a ton of new life breathed into it now that it's had one of its key pieces return to the deck. So you gotta be happy for them there. And another winner of this ban list is combo decks, because when it comes to combo decks, one of the biggest issues is playing through disruption, whether it's one piece of disruption or multiple. And now that Call by the Grave is back at 3, that is an 11% increase in consistency in the amount of times you're going to be able to play through your opponent's disruption and that your combo is going to resolve. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but over the course of a 11-12 round Swiss tournament, not to mention going into Top Cut, you're really going to start to see the difference between 2 and 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is just an exceptionally good card on its own because not only is it able to stop hand traps, you can just disrupt your opponent's graveyard, its effect negation. There's just so many benefits that a card like Called by the Grave offers that I think a lot of people are really happy that this card is now back at 3, and a little bit of the variance has been removed with it only being at 2. So I think a lot of us are winners there in that regard, but combo decks especially are going to be really happy with this one. That is going to bring us on, however, though, to the losers of this ban list. Now, I think the biggest loser of all is Firewall Dragon, but do we really care? Nah, not really. Fuck him. We don't want him. So yeah, he's a loser, but yeah, he's a big fucking loser, and he can stay on the ban list until the end of time. Another loser, though, is really anyone who is playing an FTK deck or an Extra Link deck, and again, I wanted to touch back on this because these decks, while still in the metagame, are something that you're not going to have to worry about nearly as much. Now again, Firewall Dragon was not the linchpin of all of these strategies, but I think for the most part, a lot of us are not going to have to worry about it. Now, another loser on this ban list is Dark Warrior decks, because Dark Warrior decks probably took the most hits out of anything on this ban list. Not only did they lose Firewall Dragon, but Armageddon Knight got hit to 1, which is pretty justified in my opinion, and Destiny Hero Malicious got hit to 2. Now, are Dark Warrior decks out of the game? No, not at all, because there are other ways that the Dark Warrior deck can function, and pretty much do things that are just as unfair as before, except now you actually are going to get a turn, but in some cases that may not matter depending on the variant of Dark Warrior that you're playing against. But I have it on here as a loser just because it did take the most hits probably of any single deck on this list. So even though the deck is still playable, it's still a loser in that regard, but I think that's a positive overall net benefit. And then the last deck I wanted to have on the losers, and something that some of you guys might have not even thought about, is Burning Abyss. Yeah, Burning Abyss actually took an inadvertent hit on this list by having Destiny Hero Malicious go to 2. This was pretty much one of the key cards in Burning Abyss because you were able to just hard make Beatrice with Malicious in tandem with something like Fabled Sulcus. And now that Malicious is at 2, I don't know if Burning Abyss is still going to warrant wanting to play these cards just to hard make a Beatrice and get the effect on the same turn it was summoned. It's a really cool combo, and the ability to do stuff with Sulcus added a layer to the deck that wasn't previously there, but I don't know if the 2 Malicious really warrants that anymore, and I don't know if moving forward Burning Abyss players are going to want to play that. So we'll just have to wait and see, but kind of one of the decks subject to collateral damage in this instance. Not like the biggest inadvertent hit, but still something I thought was worth mentioning. Now, we are going to be doing the top 5 meta decks and top 5 budget decks as always, especially because it's a new month, so you can definitely look forward to that. But definitely, guys, let me know down in the comments what you guys think are your top winners and losers of the December 2018 ban list. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.